Hello BookTube, and hello AuthorTube. And I say AuthorTube because, of course, a huge event is coming our way, right? November is NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, now in its 22nd year, something like that, where hundreds of thousands of foolhardy souls all across the world set aside the month of November to write the 50,000-word first draft of a novel. Patent absurdity. Absolutely insane. 1,667 words a day in a month that has a major holiday in most parts of the world, that has the end of a school term in most parts of the world, a month that is, in other words, busy. Nevertheless, hundreds of thousands of people get together to do it, and it is enormous fun. Now, I'm going to be talking about NaNoWriMo quite a bit in November, but in the run-up to November, October is what NaNoWriMo people tend to refer to as Preptober. Because the rules in NaNoWriMo, and I'm not a rebel, I'm not a NaNoWriMo rebel, I don't look at these rules and think, well, that doesn't apply to me. The rules are what make it fun, I think. Part of what make it fun. And one of the rules, the hard and fast rule of NaNoWriMo, there are two. The first one is don't edit while you write, which is a good rule for writing, just in general, NaNoWriMo or not, in season and out. Don't edit while you write. It's two different parts of your writing brain. But another hard and fast rule for NaNoWriMo is that you can only write during November. At the stroke of midnight, on the first day of November, November 1st, that's when you can start writing your 50,000 words. And it's a real good idea to get a big jump start. Everybody feels that way in NaNoWriMo. You're always raring to go when the month is just starting. And that's a good idea to double or even triple your daily word dosage, because you're going to hit doldrums when you're going to want that little cushion. But we'll talk about tactics for NaNoWriMo later on. The focus of this video is Preptober, the month of October. And you can do everything in October except write. You can't write the novel itself. You can write character profiles. You can write character backstories that you're not going to use in the novel that you write. You can do a huge amount of research. You can do the absolutely vital plotting that is necessary to take the story-creating part of the burden off your shoulders in November itself. Writing 1,667 words a day is hard enough without you figuring out during that day what you're going to write. So in October, you can plot and plan for Preptober. And that's what I'm going to be doing, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do with this video. I'm encouraging you to buckle down for Preptober. Now, this is the first week of Preptober. In the first week of Preptober, you should be figuring out what your novel is. What is your story going to be? Start in very, very general terms. Is it going to be big? Is it going to be ambitious? Science fiction, fantasy? Is it going to be a whodunit? Is it going to be romance? Is it going to be straightforward literary fiction? Most people do genre fiction for NaNoWriMo. I don't know their statistics, but I'd be willing to bet that their statistics show that most people do genre fiction. And that's kind of understandable, right? One of the things that book snobs regularly criticize genre fiction for is that it does part of the work for the writer. There are some givens involved. And that might be true for a lazy practitioner of genre fiction, but it's certainly a godsend when you are trying to write 50,000 words in 1 month. It's good to know that you can lean back on a hard wicker chair of genre conventions. But now is the time that you can be making that happen, that you can be drawing that together. And it's a wonderful thing to do. It isn't, I don't mean to make it sound like work. It's a wonderful feeling to do. Take the dog out for a walk and start to assemble a world. That should be the first thing. That's this week. Assemble a world and start to figure out what story you want to tell. Is someone learning that world? Is someone being broken by that world? Is someone finding that world? Figure out what kind of story you want to tell in the first week of October. Then in the second week of Preptober, start to flesh out what exactly is going to happen. If you keep doing that in the month of October, then by the end of the month, you will have the novel well plotted out. That's what almost all working genre professionals have done for the last 150 years. And it works. That's why they've done it. It works. You have to plot things out at least a little if you're going to make any headway in NaNoWriMo. If you're not going to quit in week 2, then you need to plot things out a little. No disrespect meant to pantsers. Pantsers are the raucous contingent of NaNoWriMo participants that fly by the seat of their pants. They don't plot at all. I, again, don't have access to NaNoWriMo's internal statistics, but I'd be willing to bet that 90% of all pantsers quit at week 2. What reason would they have not to? It's an imposition on your time. It's a strain on your imagination and your emotion. Why would they do that if they have no idea, no investment, no possible investment in the story that they're telling because they don't know what it is? But if you're going to plot, you can get a lot of that work done between now and the stroke of midnight on the 1st of November. So we're going to be talking about that periodically throughout the month of October. I will be touching base with you to compare notes and hold your hand and listen to you, will cry on my shoulder, about plotting your book for NaNoWriMo. And then in November, we will write it. For instance, myself, I know right now, as it's the 3rd or 4th of October, still very early in the month, I know that I want to write science fiction because November is also the month for New Worlds November, a booktube event that is just kicking off in 2021, and I'm one of the co-hosts. It's all about science fiction short stories. 50,000 words to me is almost a short story. Certainly 50,000 words is the length of very famous novels that you have read. The War of the Worlds, Invisible Man, these things are 50,000 words, or only a tiny bit more. Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, only a tiny bit more than that. So it's not an unworkable length, although you aren't writing your finished draft, right? You're just writing a first draft. Don't edit. Don't think about your final draft. But I know that I want my story to be science fiction, not fantasy. And I have a strong feeling that I want it to involve a predominantly water world, a planet that is only 10 or maybe 9 or 8% dry land. Which means that in this first week of October, when I've got all the time in the world for plotting and characters and, the actual arc of events, I've got plenty of time in this first week, this weekend, and this coming week to figure out and even research the physics of an all-water world. What would that be like? Could it even exist? And if it did, how would it exist? The few times that it has cropped up in science fiction, it has almost always been an artificial world. It crops up on an episode of Star Trek Voyager. It crops up on another science fiction TV series. It crops up in a few novels that I've read, and always it ends up that there are artificial force fields of some kind or other keeping the water from evaporating into space. Is that necessary? Is that why the eggheads who are showrunners and show writers for those episodes and those books universally have that happen? Or is it possible that it could not be? I have to think that according to planetary physics, it would be possible. After all, the planet Jupiter, right here in our solar system, has 100 miles of gas before you get to anything like a solid surface. Though that doesn't evaporate just wholesale into space. It's been there for centuries, probably millennia, probably billions of years. Is it much different with water? I don't know. Would the planet have to have an immensely strong gravitational field for it to hold water? I don't know, but I can find out as part of my story, which is in the vaguest possible state. I have no idea what the planet's name is, no idea what the story is, no idea of anything like that. Since I will be having people encounter this world rather than live there, that bespeaks a future time. If I'm not going to narrate it through aliens, if I'm going to have humans in the story, then that bespeaks a future time, because we don't have the technology to visit such a world now. I don't even need to think about that part until next week. I can spend the next few days thinking about what a water world is like, what it would be like. That's a lot of fun. That's not really work. The work, trust me, will come in November. But in the meantime, I wanted to make this video just to encourage you not only to take part in NaNoWriMo, but to take part in Preptober, where you start to block out your story. So feel free in the comment section or in your emails to let me know what your thoughts are. Bounce them off me if you want some feedback on your very vaguest, most general thoughts about plotting or scene or whatever. I'd be happy to give it. I have written a great deal of the made-up stories in my life, and I've also taught writing many times, so I'd be happy to help. And we will touch on this subject again. So I will wrap this up for now, but I will most certainly be back. Thank you, BookTube.